Most sci-fi worlds are stages where action just happens, settings that contain the story. Arrakis is a real planetary character, a machine of death and life. Every rule on the planet, the religion, the warfare, even the galactic economy, comes from one thing: a planet engineered by a brutal, crushing scarcity. Spice. Sandworms. The absolutely amazing part is that Frank Herbert didn't write this as only a novelist. He built Arrakis. He built Dune like an ecologist. Complete with feedback loops, keystone species, long-term climate cycles, trophic levels, and then he beautifully laid down that science into a story. Let's go beyond the spice. Let's deconstruct the complex biological machinery of the sandworm, the reality of the water cycle, the dream of terraforming a planet with the most valuable resource of the universe. My Arrakis, my Dune.
My Arrakis. My Dune.
Frank Herbert's conception of Dune came from a 1957 trip to coastal Oregon. He was also a journalist and went to Oregon to write a piece on sand dune stabilization. He never finished or published it, but it planted the ecological seed of what would become Dune. Sand dune stabilization is a process of planting fast-growing grasses along the moving crest of coastal dunes to anchor them into place, spreading roots through the sand. The aimless drifting nature is tamed by humankind. On his planet, the humans are humbled by the sheer intensity of forces that bring death. The deserts, the climate, the world is hostile to life, and it is the dream of the characters to tame it. Beyond a critical point with a finite space, freedom diminishes as numbers increase. This is as true of humans in the finite space of a planetary ecosystem as it is of gas molecules in a sealed flask. The human question is not how many can possibly survive within the system, but what kind of existence is possible for those who do survive. Pardette Kynes, first planetologist of Arrakis. This is why Arrakis feels different. Tolkien described trees and forests and the mournful nostalgia of elven ruins and desolate northern landscapes. The fantasy feels mythological, the lost lay of Beleriand, Eregion. But with Arrakis, it feels inevitable. One wrong step, one careless spit, and you're reduced to a tiny number in the ledger of an unceasing planet. In our world, water is life, its law, its identity and power. It's the same thing on Arrakis, only more so. The absence of it is felt in the system. The culture is its absence. Like any intrepid explorer to the far frozen reaches of our Earth's Arctic poles, or astronauts in the chest-crushing, merciless vacuum of space, you need gear. You need a suit to survive. On Arrakis, the stillsuits are this buffer between brutal death and tentative life. The body is a closed-loop system. Sweat, breath, movement is all factored into the water budget. That's the thing about Dune. It is ecologically forward fiction, not just politics with worms. The thing the ecologically illiterate don't realize about an ecosystem, Kynes said, is that it is a system. A system. A system maintains a certain fluid stability that can be destroyed by a misstep in just one niche. A system has order, a flowing from point to point. If something dams that flow, order collapses. The untrained might miss that collapse until it was too late. That's why the highest function of ecology is the understanding of consequences. There's a whole collective infrastructure in water storage, the great Fremen Sietchs. Civilization there is how well you can store water. For us, with our planet's naturally replenishing hydrologic cycle, it's more how well can you store grain and food, and water is the way to transport goods and people. The water cycle, the hydrologic cycle, is the continuous sun-driven movement of water on, above, and below the Earth's surface, changing between liquid, solid ice, and gas vapor states. It sustains life by recycling water through evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff, ensuring a constant supply of fresh water. On Arrakis, they have one major cycle that, above all else, is the prime mover of the planet and the entire civilization of the Imperium. It is a biological monopoly, the spice cycle. From sand plankton, the first stage of the sandworm, to the little makers that create spice, the sand trout, To the juvenile and then adult sandworms, everything is a loop. The Ouroboros, the sandworm, eating its own tail. The planet's water is gradually encapsulated by sand trout, which forms massive living membranes against any and all moisture. Water is poisonous to the more adult stage, the sandworm. Sand trouts, or little makers, eventually become sandworms. The spice is a byproduct of their biology. The Fremen obtain and make use of it by the drowning of an infant worm, which causes it to produce intensely concentrated spice essence. This is from the Ecology of Dune in the appendix. This water stealer died by the millions in each spice blow. A 5-degree change in temperature could kill it. The few survivors entered a semi-dormant, cyst hibernation to emerge in 6 years as small, about 3 meters long, sandworms. Of these, only a few avoided their larger brothers and pre-spiced water pockets to emerge into maturity as the giant Shai-Hulud. Now they had their circular relationship. Little maker to pre-spiced mass, little maker to Shai-Hulud. Shai-Hulud to scatter the spice upon which fed microscopic creatures called sand plankton. The sand plankton, food for Shai-Hulud, growing, burrowing, becoming the little makers. The sandworm life cycle perpetuates spice, but it robs the planet of water and green growth. And the Imperium knows this. It has no intention of changing things. Without spice melange, there is no interstellar travel. For it is spice that allows the Spacing Guild navigators limited precognition or foresight. This ability allows them to safely navigate faster-than-light ships through folded space, avoiding stars, black holes, and other hazards without the use of computers, which humans in the past fought a holy war against, intelligent machines. Their use is forever banned. Spice is gold. It is oil. It is hallucinogen. It is sacrament. It is power. It is the byproduct of the sandworm's life cycle. Arrakis is a one-crop planet, his father said. One crop. It supports a ruling class that lives as ruling classes have lived in all times, while beneath them, a semi-human mass of semi-slaves exists on their leavings. It's the masses and the leavings that occupy our attention. These are far more valuable than has ever been suspected. Humans on our Earth have found the fuel for their entire civilization in the ghost byproduct of nature. The forces they think they control and understand. The cracking into our own Earth's crust, drilling to take out the hydrocarbons formed over millions of years from decomposed organic matter. Every nation drinks it, with all our mouths at the basins, with our augers, taps, and gore-spattered drills. It is the sanctity of the universe, chemistry of the dead. But on Arrakis, it is the chemistry of life, the sandworm Shai-Hulud. Men and their works have been a disease on the surface of their planets before now, his father said. Nature tends to compensate for diseases, to remove or encapsulate them, to incorporate them into the system in her own way. And all man's devices, the harvester, the carryall, the worm sign, are industry racing the apex predator, the keystone species they think they control. Enter Liet Kynes, the planetologist for Dune, half Fremen, half Imperium, ecologist and bearer of his father's dream to terraform Arrakis for better human habitation. You must cultivate ecological literacy among the people. That's why I've created this entirely new form of ecological notation. Our first goal on Arrakis, his father said, is grassland provinces. We will start with these mutated poverty grasses. When we have moisture locked in grasslands, we'll move on to start upland forests. Then a few open bodies of water, small at first, and situated along lines of prevailing winds, with wind-trapped moisture precipitators spaced in the lines to recapture what the wind steals. We must create a true Sirocco, a moist wind, but we will never get away from the necessity for wind traps. The historical system of mutual pillage and extortion stops here on Arrakis, his father said. You cannot go on forever stealing what you need without regard to those who come after. The physical qualities of a planet are written into its economic and political record. We have the record in front of us, and our course is obvious. Kynes and his father's dream move in centuries' time. It is generational change, exactly like how our Earth's geological time moves. The continental plates crash together, creating mountains that pierce the firmament. Then the rain shadow effect makes the jungle and the desert, and life follows in its wake slowly, very slowly. But greening the planet by force would disrupt spice, and the spice must flow. Kynes realizes everything, finally and totally, in his ecological pre-death delirium. And I am a desert creature, Kynes thought. You see me, Father? I am a desert creature. He felt the bubble lift him, felt it break and the dust whirlpool engulf him, dragging him down into cool darkness. For a moment, the sensation of coolness and the moisture were blessed relief. Then, as his planet killed him, it occurred to Kynes that his father and all the other scientists were wrong, that the most persistent principles of the universe were accident and error. Even the Hawks could appreciate these facts.